Hey everybody, welcome back to Brent's Backyard Redneckery. You know, it's getting to be about that time of year where not only am I harvesting stuff out of my garden, but it's about that time for chili season. So I've been trying to make a chili recipe that isn't too hot, but isn't too weak. So last year I came up with a recipe that I think is just about perfect. So I'm going to show you that recipe, and if you'd like to make it, I'll drop it in the description at the end of this. You can check it out too. So everybody ready? Let me tell you what you need to do. Let's get into it. All right, so there are a plethora of ingredients to use in this, but my main ingredient are tomatoes from the garden. Yeah, a lot of them don't look too pretty, but I won't use those parts in the recipe. I'll cut those out before I put them in the pot. But we've got tomato paste, tomato sauce. Now we've got to have the sauce to help with our pH balance. The baking soda is to take out any kind of vinegary taste that is too overwhelming for you. Everything else we're going to chop up. Onion, 1 white onion, about 7 cloves out of that garlic. The red, yellow, and what's that other color? Orange, yeah. Orange red bell pepper. We've got basil. We've got cumin. And here I've got smoked fatalli that I made last year. So I'm going to be using that for a little bit more of a kick. These peppers are called kalugaritsa or kalugarista. I'm not really sure, but they're a kind of hot pepper, but kind of sweet. A little bit hotter than a jalapeno, but a lot less hotter than But they're a lot less hot than, say, a ghost or even a fatalli. So we'll chop those up to give us enough heat in there. Got our kosher salt, our sugar, and our vinegar. So let's go ahead, start chopping up vegetables and get ready to cook this down. So the onion, we're just going to chop it into quarters for now. Well, I guess about eighths. And we'll take this along with the bell pepper and chop it in our food processor. But for now, we'll set that to the side and do the rest of it. When it comes to my bell peppers, I like using the colored bell peppers because they taste better than the green ones, in my humble opinion. If you like green, you can use green instead. I'll go around there and pull out my core like that. Toss it in there with the rest of the onion parts. We'll just take our bell pepper, and we've got all our seeds in there. We're going to smack those out. You can save the seeds to grow them in the garden if you'd like. I don't ever have any luck with bell peppers, but I don't know if that's the climate around here or if I'm just no good with them. But then you've got all the seeds there. You can pick them out, throw them over into your pile of stuff. And we'll do the same thing with our bell peppers as we do with the onions. We'll just cut them into chunks, and we'll toss those in the bowl with the onion. We're going to put all this in the food processor at the same time and try and get it to where it's not pureed, but to where it's in nice little chunks and everything. So I'll go ahead and get the rest of my bell peppers cut up, and we'll move along to the next step. All right, so I've got all my bell pepper and onion chopped up, ready to go into the food processor. And when it comes to doing your garlic, I guess what you can do is you can strip off the outer layer of this, and we'll just want to get 7 of these individual cloves out of here. And we're going to use a garlic press to mince this garlic. I don't want to just chop it up for the mushed garlic. I want it to be actually minced so it will blend in the chili a little bit better. And if you don't own a garlic press, I would recommend you get one because they come in handy for putting garlic in all kinds of things. Let me grab mine and we'll mince one of these up so you can see what it looks like. So when you're using a garlic press, you just cut off each end of the garlic. We're going to peel off that outer covering there. And to use a garlic press is actually pretty simple. This is a pretty inexpensive one. What you'll do is just take that, pop the garlic down in there, give it a good squeeze, and it'll come out on this side minced up. So that's what we'll do for all this garlic, and we'll mix it in with that jazz. Because in the end, we're going to combine all of our ingredients into one pot and cook it all up. So I'm going to get the rest of these minced, and we'll move on to the next part. I got all that garlic minced up. That's a pretty decent pile. It doesn't look like it's, I mean, it looks like a whole bunch right here, But once we have it mixed in with our chili, it's not going to be quite as overpowering as what it looks. I'm just going to drop that off down here. We'll mix all that together when we get to the bowl. All right, since we have the garlic and everything done, our next is going to be peppers. If you're using a hot pepper or a slightly hot pepper, I would be careful how you cut these up, because all you got to do is touch it, get it near your eyeball. Next thing you know, everything burns for a couple of hours. Luckily, these aren't super hot, so I'm not wearing gloves, and I think I'll be okay. I guess I'll find out whenever I start cooking, and if I start screaming with my eyes on fire, then we'll know I screwed up really bad. So we're going to chop these up same way we did the onions, toss them in our big old mixture of stuff, and go on to the next part. Last thing I'm going to chop up are going to be my tomatoes. Some of these are orange, some of these are red, some of these are purple Cherokee. I've got all kinds of tomatoes. One thing for sure, these tomato knives are actually amazing. When it comes to cutting my tomatoes, I'll cut them into pieces such as that. And I'll always just cut off the stem part, or the remaining stem portion. And since I don't really like to cut these and put them into a food processor, because I kind of like my chili a little bit chunky, my tomatoes chunky, I'll chop them up like this into sections, and I'll put those in a separate bowl to put in it all by themselves. Now, if you like your chili a little bit less chunky, you can always put them into the food processor along with all of your other things and do it that way. It's completely up to you, but for me, I like to keep mine a little bit on the chunky side, just like I like my women. So there we go. That's how I do my tomatoes. Now, when you have tomatoes like this that look really, really horrible, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. I mean, yeah, you can cut it like that. Make sure it's not rotten or anything on the inside. And all of those nasty spots there, I just go around my edge, cut those off and throw them away. And then I can still use the rest of the tomato. Like this is a Cherokee purple. So this one's going to be a little bit different than my, what is a pink brandywine. But we're looking at 7 pounds of tomatoes here. So it's going to take me a while to chop those up by hand. I'm going to knock that out, and then we're going to get ready to cook. All right, here's what we've got for our tomatoes. There's 7 pounds in there. So this is what we're going to start with our cooking. We're going to put our tomato sauce and tomato paste in that. We're going to go ahead and chop up all this stuff in the food processor and then blend it all together and let it cook. All right, so we got all, that's about half of the stuff in there. We're just going to pulse it. It's about where I want it, I think. Yeah, so that's a good consistency. I'll chop up the other half and we'll blend it all together. Okie dokie. Okie dokie, okie dokie, okie dokie. First thing we're going to add in here is going to be our tomato sauce. Go ahead and scoop out all that good stuff. Get ready to mix it all in. And that's going to be for our pH balance. The tomato paste is going to be pretty much to make it where it's not too thin and to give it a nice tomatoey taste. Is my understanding. Tomato paste is made from Roma tomatoes rather than regular red tomatoes. So there's that. We're going to put in 2/3 a cup of white vinegar. And this can be a little bit stout. I mean, vinegar's always kind of stout. We're going to have basil. We're going to have 1 teaspoon of basil. We're going to have 1 teaspoon of ground regular paprika. We're going to have a tablespoon of cumin. Cumin's really going to be one of the ones that helps give us that real chili flavor. Sugar, we're going to have 1 tablespoon. Our smoked fatalli, I'm going to start with half of a tablespoon because this stuff is pretty potent. It's got a great smoky flavor, but it's kind of hot. All I've used so far in this recipe is kosher, so that's what I'm going to continue to put in here. And that should be all of our ingredients, but let me double check. And we're going to get this all mixed up. And what we're going to do is put this on a low heat. Okay, so what we'll do here, we'll get everything nice and combined, and we will bring this up to a boil. Once it reaches a boil, we're going to reduce the heat. I'm going to start it, on a boil, I'm going to put it at a medium-high heat to get it up to a boil. Once it gets up to that boil, we're going to reduce the heat, and we're going to let it simmer on probably a 2-3 on the electric stove. We're going to let that simmer for about 20-30 minutes, and then we'll get it ready to pop it into our jars and prepare to be canned for our chili starter for the season. All right, it's a little bit on the vinegar side, but let me rinse that off. And man, that's got a kick. Yeah, no more smoked fatalli. That's for certain. All right, so vinegar's a little bit stout. One thing you can do to tamp that down some is add in baking soda. So I'm just going to put in a half a tablespoon, and you can witness what it does. It gets all foamy and looks disgusting. But as you mix it, I don't know, can you hear it bubbling? Yep. So yeah, it'll bubble up like that, but it'll settle back down, and that will help to alleviate the taste of vinegar. And you'll still retain just enough to where it tastes like chili. But that's what this is for, to add in whatever you want to on top of it. This is just our starter. So I'm going to let that simmer now for about 30 minutes, and then we'll can it. All right, so we've got our chili starter here completely ready. It's been simmering for about 30-45 minutes. Everything's good, so we've just got a couple steps left. We've got to put it in our jars, and then we've got to get it into our water bath. So let's go ahead and get that done. Just like with any of your canning, you'll take your mixture and pour it into your jars, and we'll fill it all the way up until we get to the bottom of that ring. I want to be able to get it taken care of and seal up every jar. So that's where we're going to stop on each one of these, and we'll get our lids on. We'll just put them on there, get them ready, and then finger tighten down our lids. Make sure that we're good there. All right, and that one's ready to go in the processing. So I'm going to finish filling these up and then get them processed. Okay, for my water bath canning, I don't have a pot that is tall enough to give me room to cover up these with water, as you can tell. So I'm going to set this up the way I do my pressure cooker. We're just going to put the water up to a specific level there, and we're going to let this boil up to the 10 minutes that I usually do for water bath canning. I may go 15 just in case to see if these things will seal up. So I'm going to let that happen, and we'll check it afterwards and see if I actually succeed. I just pulled everything out. Let's see. Looks like they all have sealed. So that's absolutely perfect. And the lids are just slightly needing a little bit of a turn to get them the rest of the way tight, which is what happens whenever we lose that little bit of gap and we seal up all the air in there. So we got a success with our chili starter. All right, everybody, wraps up another episode of Brent's Backyard Redneckery. And what did I learn today? I learned that I can seal these up without having a full water bath, covering them up with water. So I guess the air is able to escape like it's supposed to in a water bath by filling it up to the line like I would with a pressure cooker. So if you guys learned something, enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, come back next time. I'll tell you what you need to do. Y'all have a good one.